Happy April, DockHound fans. We hope that you are very uh, getting excited for the upcoming season for DockHounds Baseball, year 5 of DockHounds Baseball in Oconomowoc and Lake Country. This is something new that we are going to start and have a couple of episodes talking about the team. Looking forward to year 5 of DockHounds Baseball. For those who don't know me, I'm Dominic Stern, our broadcaster with the DockHounds. This will be my 4th season with the team, second year full-time with the team in ticket sales. Tom Kelenic, he's been on the ground day one. Ken Huckaby, our manager, he is going into his 3rd full season and 4th total season as the DockHounds manager. And Travis Akre, our brand new hitting coach, but he's not new to the staff. He has been on the DockHounds coaching staff for just a small period of time. But Tom, before we get started and talk with the coaches, just wanted to talk about this show that we're doing. This is DockHounds Insider. Want to get our fans even more excited for the upcoming season. Eventually, we'll start to talk about what will be going on at the Diamond at Wisconsin Brewing Company Park in Oconomowoc. But for us, this is going to be more baseball focused to start. And I know that coming off a division title, you've got to be amped to get back out there and defend that division title.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, we've done a pretty good job in retaining the really good quality arms that we had last year and now just adding to that and having a good chemistry from the first inning to the ninth inning.
And I think we should open the floor to Travis Akre, our brand new hitting coach, to introduce themselves to the DockHound fans. Travis, how excited are you to join the professional ranks with the Lake Country DockHounds and hit the ground running as our new hitting coach?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's excited to carry on a full season here with the club. Definitely have enjoyed my relationship with everybody on staff and the way things are ran there, and just the opportunity to be a part of the day-to-day grind with the club, and hopefully, chase the championship trophy here.
For Tom, you brought in Travis while the DockHounds were undergoing some coaching changes during year 2 in 2023. What stands out to you about Travis's coaching experience that made you want to bring him back now full time?
I think Trav's been around the game a long time, been involved with a lot of college players, been involved with the Northwoods League, and has an eye for talent, and his coaching style is what the players today enjoy. It's not a yell. You got to do this. You got to do that. He tries to understand the player and work into his um, style that player likes, and I think it's important in today's game.
And for Ken, it's a new addition to your coaching staff. Uh, what have you had discussion wise with Travis, and what are you most excited for him to bring to the staff?
We just talked about expectations, what his expectations were of us, and what our expectations were of him coming into this. And I met Travis, like you said, when I first came in as the new manager in the middle of the 2020 or beginning of the 2023 season. Liked what I saw. I wish he could have hung around a little bit longer, but unfortunately it didn't work out. He had to go back and do his other job. And when the opening came up and Tom brought up his name, I said, absolutely, let's see if we can get him back. And I think he fills all the boxes that we need as a hitting coach. I think our players are going to gravitate towards him, and I look forward to working with them.
And I know it's been an exciting offseason for you. You got to hang out with your son Kyle during the beginning of the last DockHound season, but you got to see your son get married. Before we jump into some more baseball, what was that experience like for you seeing your firstborn get married?
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was a small affair, which was perfect. And the actual ceremony, there was just 6 of us there, me, my wife, my daughter, and her parents and her sister that actually got to watch the actual ceremony. And then the way they wanted to do it was just have a 3-day party at a lake riverfront Airbnb here in Cocoa Beach. So it was a fun time.
Very nice. Know that you'll be excited to get back into the swing of things. And With it being April 1st, you've got Major League Baseball season already started. Minor league season is getting underway, and our season begins next month. So this is our last full month without American Association Baseball. Can you guys start to feel the excitement of getting a little closer towards DockHounds baseball and getting back to the diamond each and every day?
I certainly can. I've been looking forward to the opening day coming up. I look forward to spring training every year and getting to know the guys and kind of evaluating what we've got and seeing the guys that, you know, we put a lot of work, or Tom and Jack and everybody behind the scenes have put a lot of work into bringing these guys in, and looking forward to seeing what they got.
With this being the 5th year of DockHounds baseball in Oconomowoc, the first year got off to a solid start. It didn't end the way that any of the DockHounds fans or front office would have liked. Then year 2 didn't get off to a good start. Picked it up in the middle once Ken Huckaby and the new staff took over. Year 3, first playoff berth. And then last year, in year 4, was the first season in which the DockHounds legitimately got off to a good start and were able to sustain that throughout the course of the season. So I think this really goes more towards Tom and Huck. What were you guys able to learn from the first 3 seasons that you were able to implement going into last season that allowed the team to get off to a strong start and be a force in the East Division?
You know, I think just consistency, right? Huck's got a great way of analyzing not only the game itself, but you know, how the series is going to play out and what the month is going to look like. And you know, I probably get on him too hard to win every game, and he reassures me that, you know, there is a process, and you know, with his experience and that he's had an affiliate not only as a player and coordinator and a coach. I kind of lead on him heavily to keep the ship the right way, not only with the players, but probably myself too.
I think we learned more so how to construct a team in a better way. I think Tom has done a great job. Jack has done a great job. I've learned a lot over the last 3.5 years that there's certain aspects of the team that you have to put together to sustain a season, and I think we've learned on the fly as we've gone. We realized how important the pitching was, even though we do play in a small ballpark, that offense can't be at all because we have to play 50 games on the road and every other field is really, really big. And sometimes those hitters that we brought in the first couple of years didn't do what we needed them to do on the road just because of the difference in the dimensions of the stadium. And we learned that if we bring in the right guys on the mound, we can sustain home and away. So we minimize the damage at home and try to dominate away when we play on those bigger fields. So I think we've learned a lot as far as how to put the team together over the last 5 years.
And it's actually a great transition to Travis, because you came in, you obviously weren't a part of the roster construction, but during that second season, it was very apparent that there were a lot of players who didn't have the professional experience of the guys that the DockHounds have now been able to bring in for the last 2 seasons and for this upcoming season. And we'll get into some of the names and start talking about some of those players. But just looking at some of the players that you'll be working with and where they've played, have you noticed that there is that talent increase from when you were here with the DockHounds 2 years ago to even now?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you know, as Huck said, you know, there's a process in trying to add, subtract, and what's going to work for the best for the program, right, and for the team. And I think that we just have to try to figure out what's going to work. And you know, it certainly is a cross between our ballpark and the others, like Huck said too. And you have to find what's going to mesh in between the lines like that. You know, we got to let the guys kind of be themselves too. They've been successful in their journey. So, you know, we're going to help them where they're trying to get to, but also, you know, we got to let them be themselves, and why we brought them on to be a part of the club.
And I know that our fans have absolutely loved some of the guys that we've been able to sustain. Demetrius Sims has been the mainstay. He, of course, is not going to be a part of that, but the impact that he's left on the clubhouse with a lot of returners, we should be able to feel. And you have to be able to mesh those new guys coming in with those guys who are sticking around. And Tom, part of that talent increase, do you think that's because of the culture that players have been able to set with the coaches and with the front office? And is that something that you've been able to pitch to some of these quote unquote higher level players or players who have had more experience to draw them to Oconomowoc?
I think we lean on our players and our core players to help us develop the team prior to opening day or prior to spring training. But I think the bigger picture is there's just a lot of really good players with experience, and the cuts that they're having at the minor league and the major league level, we're fortunate enough to have quite a few of them fall into our lap. I always say I'm a sucker for Wisconsin players and Midwest players, and every year there's just more and more guys, in that 27 to 28 age, and they're not getting to the big leagues, and the clubs are letting them go, and they're pretty talented. So we just try to stay ahead of it. And I mean, we're even watching players that aren't released because we're starting to identify what the system and how it plays out. They may hit 20 home runs in Double-A and be 28 years old, and the clubs are letting them go because they're just not going to sustain that development. They're going to peak out in 2-3 years, and whether they do or they don't, that's what they're thinking. And we have to be on our toes to get those players as soon as that happens.
I know that you, Jack, and even Hawk are always on the look for ways to improve the roster. Even when the team is doing well, there's always something that you can add to the team that you really look for and say, this is the guy that we want, and this is the spot that we want him to play. And I know that there's a couple more loose ends that you need to wrap up, but is there anything that you're most excited about for the roster that's returning or coming back and that you've got signed for year 5 in 2026?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate enough. We had a couple guys that played for us, were all stars, got into affiliate. And again, it was a numbers thing. Brody Rodning is back. Alan Carter is back to a already strong bullpen. I just think our pitching is going to be much better than what it ever was. But again, we're still looking to even make it better, and keep following guys and bringing guys in and see if we can improve in any facet of the game.
The reputation of Wisconsin Brewing Company Park, as you guys alluded to, it's a hitter-friendly ballpark. The dimensions are smaller than certainly most in the American Association. But the last year, it was the pitching staff, which was the reason that the DockHounds had a lot of success on the third best ERA in the league while scoring in the bottom half of the American Association. And we're still able to win the East Division. And I think that's where you guys are going to lean on Travis. And Travis, when you have that pitching staff that you can depend on, and now it's up to the offense to supply those runs to supplement them, what's the feeling like knowing that as the hitting coach, you have a good pitching staff, that your offense doesn't have to go out and score 7+ runs a night to go win some games?
Well, that'll be never the standard that we're going to try. We're always going to try to ambush and score some runs, that's for sure. But, that's the nucleus of the game, right? I mean, your pitching and defense will always give you a shot to stay in a ball game, and it's up to us to try to figure out ways to manufacture runs and move the baseball and get guys in scoring position and create pressure and make stress pitches on the other team and hopefully build that and add some runs for us.
I think with that being said, that we've added a different dynamic to the team this year. We've kind of been more of a team that's relied heavily on the power part of our game. And I think we've added 3 or 4 table setters, so to speak. And for the fans that remember Blake Taberry, I think we've added 4 guys that are like Blake Taberry that are going to get on the bases for the Ryan Hernandezes and the Zimmermans and the other guys that are going to be coming up to drive them in. So I think we've added a little bit different dynamic to our offense that we had in the past.
Very excited to see the new offense, because the only 2 returning hitters as of now, of course, we could always add some returning hitters, are Ryan Hernandez and Ray Zuper, who are, of course, very different players. Zuber was actually just part of the Kane County Cougars and American Association Baseball Champions League championship team. So congratulations to Zuber and the Kane County Cougars and the American Association for that. And then Ryan Hernandez, who has been the most prolific power hitter for the DockHounds. He and Curtis Terry, top 2 in home runs for Lake Country. And Hernandez, he didn't get off to the start last year that he would have wanted, but he was really strong at the end of the year, and so was Zuberer. How excited are you all to add those bats back into the lineup? And Zuberer, he could play more than just the outfield like we've seen for the most part.
I'm excited to have them both back. I mean, they're great clubhouse guys. They both are leaders in their own little way. Ryan's a little bit more, on the goofy side, the fun side of everything, keeps everyone loose. And Zoobs is more of a guy that just shows up and plays and wants to be on the field every day. So they're 2 guys that I'm excited to have back. And with some of the other guys we've added with Dom Johnson and Reyes at shortstop, I think we've got a good nucleus of people that want to play to win.
Tom, do you have anything to add on either of those names that Huck just mentioned or the returning players?
Yeah, I mean, I think he said it perfect, and I think just we're looking to be more consistent on the base paths. I think we've added a lot of speed to this club. I think damn near everybody in the lineup can steal a base. We got a first-round catcher behind the dish who really controls the game and is a heck of a defensive catcher and can hit the ball out of the park and can even steal a couple bags here and there. So, we still got a few little things to add from an offensive side, which we will do here in the next probably week or so. But it's a grind. It's 100 games, and you just got to try to keep it in perspective and win series, right? Win 2 out of 3 and go on to the next one. And I'm excited to get going. It's about time.
The catcher you're talking about is Matt Nelson, who was most recently with the AA Chattanooga Lookouts. So that's a very talented player that the DockHounds look forward to having behind the dish. And Lake Country's had some pretty strong catchers over the last couple of years that have been good defensively, been good offensively. How important is it to have that strong catcher for you, Ken Huckaby, former Major League catcher?
It's very important. I mean, you want to have someone that you can stick back there and let him just kind of run the game and not have to babysit him for 9 innings every single night, and someone that has an open mind and is willing to learn. It's very important. It changes the dynamic of the team. I mean, I think if you look back over the last 5 years, this team has struggled when they haven't had a leader behind the plate for the most part. And since we've been able to get strong catching, the pitching staff has flourished because of that.
And Travis, we got some younger players on the team as well, as we got a special guest in there as well. Yeah. How excited are you to work with some of the younger players and watch them develop into their professional careers? Maybe like a TJ Salvaggio, who's yet to play professionally, or just any of those guys, get to work with them in the cages and during batting practice.
Yeah, it'd be exciting. It's just, again, a part of their journey and trying to figure out the transition into where they were and into the style we want to play and the expectation and trying to get them whatever we can do to get them on the base as much as possible so we can move them around and put some guys on the board and make it a little lighter on our pitching staff.
Let's talk about the pitching staff a little bit. I know that Tom mentioned the bullpen. I want to talk about the rotation because there's actually some returning arms in the rotation, something that the DockHounds have not always been able to say. Luke Hansel was the Rookie Pitcher of the Year in the American Association last year. Connor Fenelong really took off at the end of the year. He was strong throughout the season, but at the end of the year when he was able to pitch in the rotation, he was quite strong. And then Dominic Cancelleri, who in his first professional action took a little bit of an adjustment period, but by the end, he was really picking it up, and he actually pitched a little more than what he thought he was going to coming into the season, given that he had been pitching dating back to February with the college season at Creighton, where he was the Big East Pitcher of the Year. How excited are the coaches and you, Tom, and Jack, to bring back a nucleus that you can, I don't want to say depend on, but you know what you're getting out of some of those arms?
Yeah, I think it's, in indie ball, you never expect it, quite frankly. I think we're fortunate to have them. The guys that are coming in, they're going to be able to follow in their footsteps and see how things are ran. Not only how Huck does it, but how Wags does it as well. And and we got some veterans too on the back end that have been here before, and even one that's been in the league before. Rodriguez has been a heck of a starter. I think back in 22, 23 with Milwaukee. I think he was 11-3, 11-4 guy, and had a lot of success in Mexico. And so I think he'll be right there to compete for number 1, number 2, number 3 spot. So yeah, we're pretty excited and fortunate to have the veterans back.
Rodriguez was also Rookie Pitcher of the Year previously, similar to the award that Hansel got. And Huck, if you want to add on to the rotation, because that was a group that really stepped up for the DockHounds last year.
It was, and we had, Luke, his first year, he was kind of like Dom was last year, where he pitched a lot of innings in college, and we kind of shut him down in August just because we wanted him to be healthy for the following season, and it ended up paying off by him getting the rest he needed and getting stronger. He came back a lot stronger. And then we did the same thing to Dom last year. Dom was getting good, but we also talked to him about shutting him down just because of the load he had carried through the whole season. So we're hoping for a big return when he comes back this next year. And then Connor Fenlong, he was a guy that at the beginning of the year that we weren't sure we could depend on in big situations, and all of a sudden we stuck him in the rotation, and he just became a horse for us. He was as good as anything. I think with Connor, it was a matter of just getting comfortable with his settings, and once he got comfortable with his surroundings and with his environment that he was in, he really took off, and he became a really, really important workhorse for us down the stretch.
Went from long reliever to high leverage reliever to all of a sudden the rotation. And how important is it to have those guys on staff? I would throw Chris Jefferson and Kelvin Pilot as returners in there that have served multiple roles for you. How important is it to have those guys that you can say, I don't know what capacity I'll need you in for this upcoming series, but you're going to be needed?
It's very important, and we'll stretch those guys out in spring training a little bit to where they become multiple inning guys, and especially early on in the season when the starting pitching pitch counts are at a down a little bit, where they can only go 3 or 4, maybe 5 innings at the start of the season. Guys like Jefferson and Pilot become invaluable to you that can bridge the gap to get to the back end of your bullpen, and the more guys we have like that give us a little bit more flexibility, it really helps us sustain a season. You can't run the same guys out there 1 inning at a time and expect to have it. You got to have some of those guys that can eat up a couple innings in the middle of the game, because not every game is going to go as you plan. As much as Tom would like it to, it doesn't happen like that. So there's sometimes when you need that guy to go the 4th, 5th, and 6th inning to hold you in a game, and those guys become invaluable.
Thanks to those for tuning in to our first episode of DockHounds Insider. Just talking about the upcoming DockHounds season, year 5 of DockHounds baseball. And let's talk about the bullpen before we wrap things up. And I actually want to transition over to Travis. What's it like when you see a closer come in such as Alan Carter, or a high leverage reliever who has got dominant stuff, and your hitters really have to bear down and focus on executing pitch after pitch? What is it like for you when you see that reliever come in, and how thankful are you that the DockHounds seemingly have some of those arms?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you work the whole game for, is to get those guys the baseball, an opportunity to lock down a game and get a win, and that's what ultimately what we're trying to do in the offensive part of it, is to build that and get the baseball into those guys, and you're just as good as your bullpen, and having somebody like that and a stopper like that in the back end of the game is definitely a big bonus to have.
And Tom, I know specifically from conversations that we have on a weekly basis, you like your bulldogs per se, the guys that are never phased. They come in, they attack the strike zone, they do their job. Sometimes you're going to get hit around because the guys on the other side, they're professionals. How important is it to have a staff full of bulldogs? And is there something that you're looking for in identifying those guys as bulldogs to bring into the roster?
Well, the experienced guys that have been here before is kind of a no-brainer. The Alan Carters and the Brody Rodnings, and now throw in Jake Pilarski, who's got electric stuff. I don't know if we've ever had those kind of options in that 8th, 9th inning. If Huck wants to play matchup ball or just throw out who's ever got the most rest or whatnot. But I don't know if we've ever had a couple righties and a lefty towards the back end that can go in and just get 3 outs and, less than 10 pitches and get ready for the next game. And I think, to Huck's point earlier in the conversation, we've kind of learned over the years, including myself for sure. Before this, I was building youth baseball teams, not professional. So it's taken some time, and we understand what we need to do. And I think this year, more than any other year, that Huck and Wags are going to have options towards the end of the game.
Yeah, we look forward to getting Paul Wagner, DockHounds pitching coach, on some of these future DockHounds Insider shows. For Huck, I know that you had a past relationship with Brody Rodney dating back to your days in the Blue Jays organization, and then he had some injuries in the past. What do you and the DockHounds coaching staff try to do with guys who are injured and they have the skills to compete at this level to get the best out of them? How are you able to do that?
Well, it basically comes down to like when Brody came here the first time, and even guys I haven't had past relationships with, and I've explained this to guys that we have signed or tried to sign when I've had conversations with them, is, you kind of go through a progression of how you use them in the game. You kind of put them out there in a low stress environment and see what their stuff is. If they prove they can do that, then you kind of you up the stress a little bit, maybe put them in the 7th or 8th inning and up the stress a little bit. And if they show up for that and compete and dominate, then you put them in the highest leverage positions. I think where we're good this year is that we have Alan Carter, who we already know we can stick in that situation right out of the chute. I don't have to test arms to see who can do that situation. We have Brody, who we've battle tested before, but some of the other guys, we got Bo Phillips coming back, and he's a guy that we kind of did that to last year, where we kind of upped his pressure as he started getting good, and he kept answering the call. Every time we put him in higher pressure situations, he answered the call, so we can step him into a high leverage situation. So it's just a matter of getting to know these guys, testing them out, and as they prove what they can do, we use them in higher leverages. And sometimes you don't need them always for high leverage, but it's nice to know how many guys you have that you can stick out there when you're losing by a run, which is just as important as if you're winning by a run, to hold you in that game late in the game to give your offense a chance to come back.
And that's when Travis comes in, because it'll be up to his offense to get those come from behind wins. And Travis, I know that you've been able to make it out to a couple of DockHounds games the last couple of seasons, although you're busy with other coaching jobs. So now that you have the opportunity to be with the DockHounds, was there anything that stood out to you about the last couple of DockHounds teams? Last year's team had a really strong knack at coming from behind and being able to win those games in close margins. As we mentioned, they didn't always score a ton of runs, but they were always going to fight until the last out.
That's been the fun part of, just even though being away from the club, just following the process and what's been going on with the organization, right? And to see the success last year, and to, winning a division title, it's exciting to now there's expectation, and there's a hunger. And, I think that starts from all the way from top to bottom, in guys that the culture and what we're trying to do, and, being able to score runs and be competitive and get guys flying around the bases and just playing pressure baseball, is hopefully the brand that we can continue to play and bring a good program or bring a good showing on for the DockHounds fans.
Tom, Ken, Travis, thank you so much for joining us this morning on DockHounds Insider. We got just over a month until opening day. Even shorter amount of time before we have our preseason games. We got 4, 1 on the road against the Milwaukee Milkmen, and then 3 at home. Very excited to see what the team that you guys have put together is able to do on the field. Of course, we know there's always going to be changes in the American Association, but thank you so much for joining. We'll have another episode next week. Hopefully we can get Paul Wagner on with us, and I look forward to diving even further into the team, discussing some more of the players in higher detail about what you think they can really add, especially some of the new guys. But any last nuggets that any of you 3 want to add?
Hopefully it gets warmer.
Yeah, I'll be up in Wisconsin in 2 weeks, and hopefully I can bring some of the warmth from the south. And I know that Ken can maybe bring some of the warmth up there too.
Well, I'm going to go out today and watch 4 guys get shot into space about a mile away from where I am.
Nice.
Very nice. Well, and thank you to all the fans who have tuned in. We look forward to seeing you in Oconomowoc this season for year 5 of DockHounds baseball. This has been DockHounds Insider, and we look forward to talking to you next week.